The cold was merciless. Across Europe's front lines, men shivered in silence, their rifles stiff with frost, their breath turning to crystal in the frozen air. In the dead of winter, the front lines became more than battlefields. They became graveyards of ice. The enemy wasn't always human. Sometimes it was the cold itself. Soldiers dug into the earth, carving foxholes through frozen mud. Their uniforms stiffened, fingers went numb, and eyelids grew heavy from exhaustion. When night came, temperatures dropped to deadly lows. There were no heated tents, no sleeping bags, no comfort, only determination and a few tricks that meant the difference between surviving and freezing to death. World War II was fought not just in the air or on the seas, but in some of the harshest climates imaginable. In the Ardennes, during the Battle of the Bulge, frostbite crippled more men than enemy bullets. On the Eastern Front, German troops advancing into Russia met temperatures plunging below -30 degrees Celsius. Engines froze, guns jammed, and supply lines collapsed under the relentless snow. But some soldiers survived, not through luck or better gear, but through knowledge. They used a trick so simple, so primitive, that it's still more effective than many modern survival tools today. A secret of fieldcraft whispered from soldier to soldier. They called it the ground bed. You see, in those days, most men believed that warmth came from layering up. More coats, more blankets, anything to block the wind. But the truth was far more dangerous. The real killer wasn't the air around them. It was the ground beneath them. When a soldier lay down on frozen soil or snow, his body became a heat source for the earth, warmth draining downward until his core temperature dropped. Many froze before sunrise. The few who understood the science of heat loss, conduction, made it through the night. To survive, they learned to build barriers. Not just any barrier, but one that trapped air, blocked moisture, and lifted them off the deadly earth. They cleared snow, cut branches, gathered pine needles, hay, straw, anything they could find. They layered it, hand thick, creating a springy, insulated bed beneath their bodies. It wasn't comfortable, it wasn't pretty, but it worked. They called it the ground bed, a soldier's mattress made from the forest floor. And as simple as it sounds, it saved countless lives through some of the worst winters of the 20th century. It was the art of surviving the unspeakable, using nothing but what nature provided. In the forests of Finland, during the Winter War of 1939, Finnish soldiers perfected the technique. Facing the Soviet invasion and temperatures colder than -35 degrees Celsius, they built thick, layered beds of spruce boughs and dry moss. Over them, they wrapped themselves in wool coats and shared warmth under the open sky. It looked primitive, yet these makeshift beds insulated better than any issued blanket. When German soldiers pushed into the Soviet Union 2 years later, they discovered this trick firsthand. Their army had marched in summer uniforms, expecting victory in weeks. But when winter came, their blankets froze solid, and tents turned to blocks of ice. Those who learned from the Finns, who built beds of straw, branches, and pine, survived. Those who didn't vanished beneath the snow. The ground bed worked because it fought the laws of physics with simplicity. Heat always travels from warm to cold. By lifting the body away from frozen ground and trapping air between layers, soldiers created a cushion of warmth, a small miracle built from nothing. Even damp straw was better than direct contact with the earth. Experienced troops developed routines. Before nightfall, they'd clear snow to bare soil, then lay logs or bark as a base. On top went pine branches or dry grass, crossed in layers to trap pockets of air. The depth of a soldier's hand was enough to block the deadly chill. Over it, a coat or poncho kept the inner layers dry, because moisture was the true enemy. As one Finnish veteran later said, "The snow will forgive you once, but not twice." Every night, they rebuilt their beds. Every morning, they dried their coats by the fire. They respected the cold, and because of that, they lived. Even Soviet troops, battling in the endless forests, adopted this method. In dugouts and forest camps, they lined trenches with hay and straw to prevent frostbite. On nights when thermometers froze solid, these beds of straw were the only barrier between life and a frozen death. Modern soldiers have sleeping pads, thermal liners, and high-tech fabrics. But even today, if you strip away all that, the laws of nature remain the same. The ground steals heat, air traps it, and if you can't insulate from below, no sleeping bag will save you. That's why experienced bushcrafters and survivalists still repeat the WWII, saying, "Insulate from the bottom, not the top." Because even the best gear can't change the physics of survival. To make a ground bed in the field, a soldier followed a simple sequence. Clear snow to the soil or pack it down hard. Lay logs or thick bark as the foundation. Add layers of pine boughs, dry grass, or straw, alternating directions for strength. Then top with a poncho or blanket to keep moisture out. That simple setup could raise core temperature by several degrees, enough to stay alive till dawn. When men slept in clusters, the effect multiplied. Close contact conserved energy and trapped warmth. In freezing forests and snow-covered trenches, that closeness, that shared body heat, often meant waking up alive. It wasn't just camaraderie, it was survival instinct. And this wasn't only a winter trick. In damp swamps, raised beds kept men dry, saving them from trench foot and disease. In deserts, the same layering insulated soldiers from the burning ground that stayed hot through the night. The principle never changed. Control heat transfer, manage moisture, and use nature as your ally. Physics doesn't change. Not in 1940, not today. And those soldiers, without tents, without sleeping bags, understood something we often forget. Technology fails. Nature endures. When the winter closed in, when supplies ran out and fires went cold, survival came down to creativity and courage. The men who built those ground beds weren't just soldiers. They were engineers of endurance. They adapted, improvised, and outsmarted death itself with nothing more than branches and straw. Their secret lives on, whispered in field manuals, taught in survival courses, remembered by those who study the harsh lessons of war. Because what saved them wasn't a weapon or a machine. It was understanding. So the next time history remembers the great battles and the men who fought them, remember also those who survived the night. The soldiers who built warmth from the frozen ground and proved that, in war, sometimes the simplest ideas are the strongest defense against death itself. Thanks for watching. And if you found this story of survival as fascinating as I did, please consider subscribing for more.